If you're looking for one of the easiest and fastest growing houseplants, you need this plant. Hey, Lee here, helping you become a better plant parent, and this is one of my most favorite love-hate houseplants, the Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma. The common names are the Mini Monstera or the Ginny Monstera. When I bought this plant just over a year ago, it only had 3 leaves. Now, as you can see, I have a huge problem. If you're the generous type, this plant is for you. You'll be able to make so many cuttings to propagate and give to your friends. This plant grows best when given the opportunity to climb something. I like to place this at the bottom of my plant shelf, and I use Velcro ties to attach it to the rope as it climbs. Giving this plant something sturdy to climb is essential for its growth. It will cause the leaves to get bigger and it will have more fenestrations. If you take a closer look at my houseplant, as it runs out of shelf space and starts to trail, the leaves eventually get smaller and even start to lose their fenestrations. One thing I also noticed is how this plant branches. Usually the plant grows as a single vine, but it does have the chance to branch off. I do really recommend this plant having 3 to 5 cuttings in the same pot. Usually when I see this being sold, it comes with a really tiny moss pole with maybe 1 or 2 leaf cuttings in the pot. But if you're going for that really awesome jungle look and you want a really bushy plant, you should have as many cuttings as you can in the same pot and give it a really long pole to climb. As it climbs, the stem will get thicker, the leaves will get bigger, and it will have more fenestrations as well. Because this plant grows so quickly, I love it as a tool to learn from. You can easily propagate this in water, in soil, or in moss. As well, when your plant eventually runs out of room, you can take a top cutting from this plant, reroot it in new soil to start over and make an even bigger plant. Since I want to replace this plant with a 3-leaf cutting, I can take this down and water propagate these cuttings, root them, and hopefully give some away to my friends, because I'm nice. Ensure you're using a sharp, clean knife or clippers. At the growth of each leaf, you'll find an aerial root. Cut on either side, leaving a bit of room. Roots will sprout from this aerial root, and new growth will eventually come from growth points on either side where the leaf meets the stem. If you have rooting hormone, you can coat the small aerial root and the ends of the stems to help seal it. I have so many of these cuttings, so I'll mostly just be skipping this step. I'm going to be water propagating my cuttings in these glass mason jars using tap water that has been sitting out for over 24 hours. Ensure that you're changing the water every few days. The more frequently, the better. Place these in a warm, sunny spot with bright but indirect sunlight. And if you can, increase the humidity for better results. This plant can sometimes struggle with water propagation, so air layering or propagating in sphagnum moss is another great choice if you do have experience using moss. This plant is so easy to grow, and with its common name, the Mini Monstera or the Ginny Monstera, I think that's really fitting because of the similar look, color, and growth pattern of this plant. Best of all, a lot of the tips that you can use for the Monstera, you can use for this plant as well. We should also probably talk about when people feel the need to correct someone when they use its common name, the Mini Monstera. Actually, it's not a Monstera, it's the Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma. And then asking them to leave the Monstera forums on Reddit. Like, we get it, you're smart. We do our best to educate others, not alienate them or shame them just for the sake of being right. And what's best is that the Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma has pretty much the same sun, soil, and water care as the Monstera Deliciosa. So if someone is asking for help with their Mini Monstera, you can use this video to be helpful, not just to prove someone wrong because you know how to pronounce the correct Latin name for this plant. Their soil needs are a well-draining, chunky mix of 20% potting soil, 40% perlite, and 40% orchid bark. They love bright indirect sunlight and can handle some amounts of direct light indoors. And you should water when the soil is nearly dry. One thing I do notice about this plant is that when it's thirsty, the stem close to the base of the plant will actually start to shrivel up. That's a really good indicator of when you need to water it next. And this plant is susceptible to pests about as much as any other plant, so make sure you double check for spider mites. Like this video if it was helpful and consider subscribing. See you next time.